Corbin Carroll, base hit. Here comes Marte. Diamondbacks sweep all four from Colorado.
Welcome to another Bally Sports Plug Arizona Diamondbacks recap for May 22nd through June 4th, 2023. I'm Chris Patrick, and joining me today is Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman here to break it all down for you. So let's go ahead and get right into it. In the last 2 weeks, the D-backs went 8-5 over their 4 matchups. And after the weekend series, our overall record stands at 35-25, still hanging out near the top of the NL standings, battling with the Dodgers. But let's go ahead and take a look at how the last 2 weeks broke down. We continued our road stretch in the state of Pennsylvania with a 3-game series versus the Phillies. The D-backs would win 2 of those games in the city of brotherly love. The Snakes made the long trip back home to take on the Red Sox for a 3-game series, hard fought but only able to win 1 and drop 2 to start the home stretch. Next, the Rockies would roll into town for a lengthy 4-game series where the D-backs got hot, sweeping the Rockies right out of town, winning all 4 games at Chase Field. Our last series of the home stint saw us taking on the Braves at Chase Field for a 3-game series. The Snakes won the first game to give them 6 wins in a row, but unfortunately dropped the last 2 over the weekend, losing this series 1-2, even on free hat night, man. But now I'll pass it over to Mike for a deeper look at the last 2 weeks.
We start strong in the city of brotherly love as Lourdes Gurriel Jr. goes a perfect 4-for-4 with a homer in Game 1. Corbin Carroll drives in the go-ahead run in the 8th in Game 2. But Jose Ruiz gives up a 2-run homer with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th and eventually lose the series finale in the 10th 6-5. But we head home to take on the AL worst Boston Red Sox and have a bit of a disappointing showing as Brandon Pfaadt gives up 5 runs in 3 2/3 in Game 1. The bats are dormant in Zach Davies' return in Game 2, but do salvage a win in Game 3 behind another solid showing from starting pitcher Merrill Kelly. Then the Colorado Rockies come to town, and the Diamondbacks put it on them, as they should. A 7-5 victory in Game 1, another Zach Gallen gem in Game 2, a shutout behind Tommy Henry in Game 3, and a come-from-behind victory thanks again to Corbin Carroll and his 2-out, 2-run single in the 9th as the Diamondbacks sweep the Rockies. We finished the homestand against the powerhouse Atlanta Braves, where Game 1 saw Merrill Kelly and Geraldo Perdomo staying hot. Spencer Strider was just too much for Ryan Nelson and the Free Hats in Game 2. And with the D-backs looking to take the series in Game 3, Miguel Castro gives up a 9th-inning grand slam to Eddie Rosario, and the Diamondbacks drop a very winnable series, mustering up the same questions we've been asking for a while now. What's going on with the pitching and the bullpen? But these are great problems to have, as the Diamondbacks find themselves atop the NL West once again. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Tallman so he can let us know what he's been seeing over the past 2 weeks.
8-5, right? Not terrible. We had a couple series against some good baseball teams. The Braves are a good baseball team. We had the privilege to go and see one of those games, which was incredible. We did lose, right? But hey, capping it off with that 9th-inning grand slam give up to just throw the game away. I mean, poor Miguel. Someone's got to give that guy a free hat. Maybe he'll feel better. But hey, the Red Sox, they're not a bad baseball team. I mean, they're 30-30. They're in a better division of baseball than we are. I mean, look at some of the teams they're going up against, fighting out for that division. But hey, sweep against the Rockies, good baseball teams, sweep bad baseball teams. So if we can continue that energy and capitalize on some of those easier matchups that, we should win every game. So that was good to see him capitalize on that. Just looking forward, guys, the bats continue to keep us alive. I don't know about you, but I feel like doesn't matter how deep of a hole we get, I always feel like there's a chance that we can come back and get back in the game until that 9th inning comes up and we're still losing, right? The trade deadline is going to be interesting because, this is going to be the first time we're going to be buyers in a while. And this front office is going to have to figure out, how do you improve this roster? How do you be a true buyer in the major leagues when you can't sit here and give up all these top prospects in your farm system that you've built up and put in so much work to create such a good farm system, how do you improve this roster without selling off every asset you have? So we're going to have to wait and see, but it feels good to be a D-backs fan right now where, man, this positivity coming from this baseball team for the Valley is exactly what Arizona sport fans need.
Absolutely. Well said, Tallman. I agree. The trade deadline is something I'm very eager for. I know it's still a little ways away, but I feel like there's a fine line they're going to have to walk between, like you say, giving up some of our young, talented prospects to win now, or just riding the ship and waiting to be true contenders a few years down the line. I think it's kind of almost an evaluation period right now to see if this team is for real or if they're just pretenders. But that aside, I've been really impressed with the last 2 weeks. I think we were also 8-5 over the previous 2 week span. So if we continue on that pace, there's room for improvement, but that's going to put us well over 500 by the end of the season, which is exactly where we want to be. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that almost every recap now, that 500 mark that we were setting as an expectation for this team. And the Diamondbacks just continue to blow those expectations out of the water. A few guys I want to highlight from the last 2 weeks. Christian Walker, a stud at first base. He's batting .227, 10 hits, 1 home run, and 2 RBIs in the last 2 weeks. A little bit down overall for the season. However, he's still leading the team in RBIs with 36 and home runs with 12. Another guy, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., in the last 2 weeks, a .333 average on 14 hits, 2 home runs, and 10 RBIs. He's been out for a couple games now, but I expect we'll see him back in the rotation soon, barring some news about his health or otherwise. And then another guy with the bat, Emmanuel Rivera. He's been filled in at that DH spot. And in his appearances, he's batting .364 in the last 2 weeks with 12 hits, 4 RBIs in just 9 games played. And he had 1 or more hits in 8 of those 9 games. So definitely a guy you want in the lineup to get you some hits on the board. On the bullpen side, we saw Miguel Castro give up that grand slam, which really brought his average down. In the last 6 appearances, he was 1 of 1, 6.75 ERA, but it really doesn't paint the full picture of how he's been doing because he hadn't given up a run in his previous 5 appearances before that grand slam he gave up. Only 4 strikeouts for 26 batters faced. I know, Tallman, before we started, you said he's been looking a little shaky out there. But I hope he can find his footing and that grand slam doesn't eat at him too much. A couple new faces we've seen. Kevin Ginkel in 5 appearances has a 3.0 ERA, 1 win and 0 losses. Austin Adams in 3.2 innings pitched over 5 appearances. He only has given up 1 earned run. So hopefully this is a sign of good things to come for our bullpen. And I'm optimistic that between that and some moves we might be able to make, this team could be in contention for either winning the division, if not at the least contending for a wild card spot. But Mike, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you so you can let us know who your player of the recap is.
We've said it right when we started these recaps. We wouldn't be surprised if this guy wasn't one of the 3 that we took week in, week out. And this week, I just had to do it. I had to go with Corbin Carroll. Over the past 2 weeks, he's batting .294, 15 hits, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, 8 runs, and 3 stolen bases. 4 multi-hit games, a web gem against the Braves on June 3rd, and scoring from first on general base hits. I mean, this kid just does it all. You have to think that he's starting to solidify himself as the front runner for the NL Rookie of the Year, along with Spencer Strider, who unfortunately the Diamondbacks did take a loss to this past Saturday. But man, there's just something special about this kid. Every time he comes up to bat, you can't take your eye off the TV. And now you got to make sure that you're watching for him in the outfield as well, making some incredible plays. So I went with Corbin Carroll this week. It was an easy decision. So, Tallman, who do you got, man? Who's your player of the recap?
I think we're all fighting for Carroll this week, right? But I'm going to give some love to El Nino, Ketel Marte. Very familiar face in a D-backs jersey, but someone last 2 weeks hitting a nice .279 average, 17 hits, 4 home runs, 8 RBIs, being very reliable and consistent. I mean, we saw him span over 11 games with a hit streak. Somebody that you can plug into that leadoff spot, second spot every single night, and you know he's going to be in there and give a spark to the team. And I feel like he has been doing that where, we're down, we haven't had a couple hits through a couple innings, and I feel like it's always Cattell that he comes up, gets a hit, and he kind of sparks that run for the team. So El Nino gets the love from me this week.
I love that pick. Cattell is my boy. For me, though, my player of the recap again is going to be Merrill Kelly. In the last 2 weeks, he has a 2-0 record, giving him 6 wins in his last 7 starts. Just an incredible run from Merrill Kelly. He has a 2.03 ERA and 18 strikeouts in those 2 starts. And he was the only one able to stop the chop against Atlanta when they rolled into town. So gotta love it. We have Gallen, we got Kelly. Now, who else is going to step up and be our third great pitcher in this rotation? Maybe it's a guy that's not even on the roster yet. I'm not too sure. But we're going to keep coming at you with these recaps every 2 weeks, taking a look at the upcoming series. We're going to be taking on the Washington Nationals in Washington for a 3-game series. Next, it's staying on the road to Detroit to take on the Tigers for another 3-game stretch. Then we're coming back home. We'll be up against the Philadelphia Phillies once again, this time for a 4-game series at Chase Field. And then the Cleveland Guardians will come into town after that for a quick little 3-game stretch here in Arizona. But for Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman, I'm Chris Patrick, and we'll see you next time. Peace.